The Lathe Tool in Modeler is an amazing tool that has many uses when you're modeling, when you're creating different pieces of geometry. What the Lathe Tool does is it sweeps an object around an axis. It will create a cylindrical object with the profile from the original form. Best way to see what it does is to show it. So I'm just going to draw a box right here. Now notice that I'm drawing the box away from the origin. Okay, I'm intentionally doing that, and I'm going to hit go over to Multiply, Lathe, which is Shift L, N for numeric, and with the y-axis, I'm lathing around the y-axis. It's sweeping around, okay, and it's making the exact same profile all the way around. Now, one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're using the lathe tool is they pick the wrong axis. If I pick X, well, I'm going to get something that is definitely not usable. It's got a lot of geometry on geometry. If I pick Z, it's even worse. We get this flat saw blade type thing, but it's a lot of geometry on geometry. It's just a mess. So you need to make sure that you know that it's going to sweep around an axis. So here's the Y. We're looking down the Y, and it sweeps around that axis. Okay, so that's a big one. You don't need to use the numeric window if you don't want to. I'll hold down Control to constrain, and I'm just going to click and drag down. So I'm choosing the Y axis. Now, the object is inside out. I could go back and flip the object, but I can always flip it once I'm finished right here. So we won't worry about that. So N for numeric. I can change the number of sides. Right now it's 24. I can use the, if I'm over in this window, I can use the right and left arrow keys to adjust the number of sides, or I can just use this little mini slider, add some more sides, or I can just manually type it in here. Okay. Now, you can do 360 degrees. That's the default. See, we got our start angle at 0, we got our end angle at 360, or I could grab these little handles and I could change the end angle, and I can change the start angle, and I could do 180 right here. I could go from 90 to 270, or I could just adjust this. If you don't feel comfortable using these handles, well, you can just change it here with the mini sliders. Know that come 360, you can't go higher than 360 with the mini slider, though you can type in more, a higher value if you just type it in right here. Okay, your center XYZ allows you to place where you're sweeping around. I like to work off the origin, so I usually find that my settings are 0, 0, 0. Okay. Now offset is a really handy tool. If I take the offset, and I'm just going to slide this window down here so we can look right here, and I'm just going to use the mini slider and see I'm offsetting the start and end angle. So up here in the perspective view, you can see they don't match up. Okay, I'm going to offset a little more, and then I'm going to take my end angle and I'm going to type in 1200 and then offset it some more. So now I'm creating a spring type model. Okay, and if I want, I can add more sides to smooth that out. Okay, so this is, let's go ahead and commit, and I'm going to flip. This is taking just a flat square and lathing it around. I can hit tab and get a nice organic shape. But let's take a look at some of the other things that we can do with the lathe tool. So I'm going to go ahead and move over to layer 2, and let's go to one window, one viewport, and I'm just going to grab the sketch tool, and I'm going to create a quick little sketch, just a little line like so. And you don't have to use the sketch tool. You could use Bezier or Spline Draw, but we'll use or even the pen tool. And now that I have this this curve, I'm going to Shift L for lathe. I'm going to hit Control and click down. Now it's kind of a mess right now because it's using the last settings that we use. So I'm going to hit N for numeric, and I'm just going to reset. Okay, and commit, flip it. Let's take a look here. And now I've got a little spray can based off of that curve. Now the thing we need to, I want to backtrack because I want you to see what's going on here. Okay, we can count the number of points here, and when we lathe it, Shift L, N for numeric, we get a lot more points. Okay, I'm going to backtrack. I just want you to see. Look at the number of points. Oops, I clicked off. Let me reset that. Okay, look at the number of points, and now what I'm going to do is just undo. And we don't have as many points there because what's happening, and you need to be aware of this, if you use a curve and you lathe it, it freezes it before it lathes it. So see, that's where all those extra points are coming from. If you want to avoid those extra points, you might decide to use the pen tool, and the pen tool is already polygons, so it won't add any extra points. So what I'm going to do is put this here and just move this point into place. Temporarily cut this out, Shift L in, and it doesn't add any extra points. It's because it's already a polygon. If I delete that, paste, this is not a polygon yet, so when I lathe it, it freezes it into a polygon and creates more geometry. So just be aware of that. The other thing to remember is that we added, let me go ahead and just create one more quick little spline. Something like this. I'm just going to add some little ridges here. Then I'll come down here, add a few ridges. Something like this. Now, if I lathe this, Shift L in for numeric, and have the 24 basic sides that we usually have. Right now, of course, it's inside out, but it looks like a tuna can or just this round disc shape. Remember that we can also lower the sides. So if I do 4 sides and commit to that, I've just created a room with molding. Okay, so you can get real creative with the lathe tool. Don't think it's just for creating round objects. Because just looking at this, we could also use this to create some really ornate picture frames, of course the molding like we see here. So the lathe tool offers us a lot of different options for creating various pieces of geometry very quickly by sweeping a shape. It doesn't have to be just a polygon, it could be a curve, but you sweep a shape around an axis. And like I said, I like to work off the origin. I think it's easier to control, but you can place the center of the tool anywhere you'd like and work that way. But that's just a real quick look at the lathe tool.